Hi, Happy New Year. I've been seeing quite a lot of people posting about how they're going to start some new hobbies, and they got me thinking about when I started photography. And if I was to go back now, what would be some things that I wish I could sort of impart to my former self? So here's 5 things I wish I knew before I started photography. So the first thing I wish I knew before I started photography was that I didn't need to go out and buy a DSLR or a mirrorless camera to get started. I had one of these kicking around. It's a Canon S120. It's a fairly basic point and shoot. It can do manual mode and it can take raw photos. Really, looking back, it's all I needed to get started in photography, to learn the basics. And it would have saved me having to worry about buying lenses and getting invested into an ecosystem which I didn't know anything about. When I picked up my first camera, I had no clue what I was buying, why I was buying it, what I needed. I didn't know anything about it because I didn't even know how to use it. The other advantage to having something like this to learn on is that I would have been way more likely to take this out and about with me. When you're a beginner photographer, the most important thing you can do is just take as many photos as you can. I didn't take my big clunky DSLR out with me all the time because it was cumbersome and people would look at you funny, and there's just certain places where it's not cool to take a DSLR. People don't want you to walk into a restaurant and leave a big chunk of technology on the table. People don't want you walking into a cinema. Sometimes it's just not convenient to take a DSLR or a mirrorless camera with a big lens on the front into somewhere. But you can pretty much sneak one of these in anywhere. And if I had had one of these with me when I was starting, and I was using this to perfect my exposure triangle and get used to how to expose shots in different environments, then I would have probably progressed a hell of a lot quicker. So looking back, I wish I had just known that I could get started with one of these. It had everything I needed to start playing with aperture and shutter speed and start exposing my photos correctly. And it could take raw photos, which means I could edit them. Which brings me on to my next point. The second thing I wish I knew before I started was that almost everybody edits their photos. Now, I'm not entirely sure what was going through my head before I got into photography and thought that nobody edited their photos, but I remember that I thought it was cheating in some way, which must mean I thought that professional photographers take these amazing photos just with sheer mastery and sorcery, which obviously isn't the case. Had I known when I got started that there wasn't this incredible gulf between the stuff that everyone else was doing that was also being edited and my own photography, the curve would have seemed way more manageable and probably not as intimidating. And I might even have got started a bit sooner. The third thing I wish I knew before I got started was that lighting is the most important thing in photography. It makes or breaks a photo. It's what shapes the image. It's what defines what you can see and what you can't. So whether you've got a point and shoot or a really high-end DSLR, if your lighting's terrible, the image is going to look poor. If you've got really harsh, bright sunlight and you're trying to do a nice portrait, either you're going to have to be super creative or it's going to look really bad. The lighting you've got and how you shape that light makes the photo. And that brings me on to the next point. Timing is everything. Sometimes it's very specific timing, like a train turning up at a beauty spot and just making your picture, or a perfectly timed red kayak across Moraine Lake. Sometimes it's a bit more general, like knowing if you take a certain shot in the middle of the day, you'll get one look. If you take another shot in golden hour, then you'll get a completely different look. And also the difference between sunrise and sunset, how the angle of the sun and the direction the sun is pointing is going to affect the shadows and the reflections that you get in your image. The last thing, and the thing I wish I knew the most before I got started in photography, is that people are actually really nice. They like looking at photos and they love encouraging new people in their community. And there are so many fantastic photographic communities online. We've got this huge network of people sharing images and tips and tricks and locations and editing techniques and all these really cool stories that come along with their images. And they're always looking to welcome someone else along, welcome someone else into that club. It's not this community of gatekeepers and people trying to determine if you're qualified enough to be a photographer, which is kind of what I thought it might be before I got started. And it put me off getting started a little bit. It made me scared to call myself a photographer because I was worried about being judged. But from what I've experienced, no one's judging. Everyone's just trying to lift each other up and encourage people and get more people to pick up this medium that we really enjoy. So if this has been helpful to you in any way, if you're getting started with photography, that's the most important thing to take away is get started and put your photos out there, because you're only going to get encouragement. People can't wait to tell you how good your shots are and which of your shots they absolutely love, and ask you where you took those shots and what your settings were and how you edited it. People are really interested, they're really enthusiastic, they're really friendly, and they're really encouraging. So thanks for watching. What's some things that you wish you knew before you got started, either in photography or video or YouTube or just anything really? If you want to share, just put it in the comments below and we'll have a chat. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. It helps me gauge how much interest there is for these videos and lets me know that I'm not just making them for my own benefit. I'm going to carry on making them either way because I'm enjoying the process and I'm enjoying the motivation to keep making these regularly, and it always helps me work into a deadline. So I'm definitely going to keep at it. But if I've got an audience there waiting to receive the videos every week, then that helps as well. Also, press the like button because apparently YouTube really cares about that, and it will help this video show up to other people and grow the audience further. So that'd be awesome. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.